Continue. All right. Thank you everyone for joining us today for the Work with Vanpools webinar. My name is Stephanie Maynard and I am with the dibs program, which is part of the San Joaquin Council of Governments. We're going to give just a minute more or so to get people time to trickle in, and then we'll go ahead and get started. All right, it's 11:03 by my clock, so we're going to go ahead and get this ball rolling. A couple of housekeeping items. This webinar is being recorded, so if you do come in late or if you want to reference this webinar in the future or send it to someone else who wasn't able to make it, we will be emailing all the attendees out the webinar link as well as uploading it to our own website in the future. And if you need that link, you can always email me as well. So that will be available to you afterwards. There is a Q&A box. It should be to the right hand of your screen. Please feel free to type in questions as we go. We will address those following the presentations by our speakers. Please be sure to, as you type in your questions, indicate who the question is for, if it is for a specific person or if it is for the whole group. Also, please stick around for the Q&As because afterwards we will do a quick drawing for a couple of gift cards to Target and Starbucks. And my green screen doesn't like Starbucks, but I promise you it is there. So stick around to the end because we'll be giving those away and I can mail those out to our winners afterward today. So let's get rolling. My name again is Stephanie Maynard. I am an assistant program specialist for the dibs program. Joining me today are Bobby Foltz. He is a sales manager at Commute with Enterprise, Jade Sanders, account manager at Commute with Enterprise, and Melvin Justice, senior project manager at Tesla. The dibs program, it was established by the San Joaquin Council of Governments in 1978 to enhance air quality and help reduce congestions through transportation demand strategies such as carpooling, vanpooling, which is why we're here today, transit riding, biking, and walking. We partner with the Stanislaus Council of Governments and Merced County Association of Governments to offer services to those three counties. These services also include transportation options, incentives, tips and tricks, and emergency ride homes. Currently, we have 453 active vans in our Vanpool program, with an additional 12 more due to start in April. And you can always contact us for more information on how that all works. So why Vanpools? Our region became a bit of an anomaly last year and the onset of COVID-19. Our net Vanpools actually went up. This may seem surprising, but for us, it wasn't, and there's two key reasons for that. The first being that our region is a hub for agriculture work, manufacturing, warehouses, distribution centers, types of work that just can't be done remotely, as well as employees and that employ a large number of people. The second reason that this uptick wasn't a huge surprise is that we partner with a lot of Vanpool champions, some of which you will hear from today. Vanpool providers, as well as employers who truly believe in this program and its benefits to the individual people. So with that, I am going to go ahead and turn this over to one of those champions, Bobby, from Enterprise.
Great. Thank you very much, Stephanie. Let me share my screen here. All right. Thank you very much, Stephanie. Again, thank you to San Joaquin Council of Government as well as DIBS for putting on this webinar. It's very exciting to be talking about our essential employers that we have partnered with and that have been huge commuters throughout the pandemic, rather than talking about return to office plan. Quick introduction for myself. Again, my name is Bobby Foltz. I'm the sales manager for Commute with Enterprise for Northern California as well as Northern Nevada. I've been with Enterprise for close to 14 years now and in the commuting industry for 6 years. My counterpart, Jade, who oversees the Sacramento and Reno region. Jade, do you want to give a quick intro?
Sure. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for taking the time to be here today. My name is Jade Sanders. I'm the account executive for the San Joaquin County area. I partner with the San Joaquin Council of Governments to assist them with their alternative transportation goals and have been instrumental in their growth in their Vanpool program this year.
Great. Thank you, Jade. All right. So like Stephanie said, we're going to be talking about vanpooling today. Really about what vanpooling is, why it's beneficial for businesses and employers, what the commute solution looks like, and then wrap it up with the value of vanpooling from the Vanpool industry. So a little bit of history on Commute with Enterprise. We are a division of Enterprise Rent-A-Car, been operating our Vanpool program for 40 plus years in the California market. Pre-COVID, we had 12,000 vehicles in fleet, and we're the 10th most passenger miles carried at 1.7 billion miles. Vanpooling, again, also has a huge impact on green initiatives, reducing miles commuted by 1.5 billion miles and reducing CO2 emissions by 1.3 billion pounds annually. So why is commuting so important to you as an employer? There's three buckets that we'll talk about today. We'll talk about your prospective employees, so employees that you're looking to hire, current employees, and as well as the business and community. When employees are looking for a new job, one of the second biggest factors of what they look at when applying for a job is daily commute. Vanpooling is able to extend your current retention radius. So before, if you were looking for hiring people that maybe only traveled 15 miles from work, with Vanpooling being able to help pull in a larger employee base, you're actually able to expand that recruiting radius to even a further amount, tapping into a new potential customer. For your current employees, SHRM has done a study that 23% of employees have left their job because of a bad commute. Let's be honest, commuting in California is not going to get any easier as people are starting to hop back in their cars to drive to work every day, and the cost of fuel continues to rise. Commuting that does increase retention. By offering a Vanpool program, you are able to increase your retention because employees are able to arrive to work refreshed and ready to go and in a better state of mind. From a business and community perspective, we talked Vanpooling is a single occupancy vehicle, so someone commuting by themselves each day produces about 4.6 metric tons of carbon dioxide a year. With California having one of the worst wildfire seasons in history, we have to do everything that we can to help with climate change, and by helping eliminate our CO2 reduction is going to help us put us in a better state. I'm going to turn it over to Jade to talk a little bit on why Vanpooling is so important to your employees.
Thank you, Bobby. So basically, again, this is Jade Sanders, and I will be talking to you a little bit today about a better commute, how it works good for your employees, how Vanpooling works, how we keep employees safe, utilizing a controlled commute option, and how to create a customized program for your particular organization. So how does Vanpool benefit your employees? They arrive to work engaged, refreshed, and less stressed since they can relax due to sharing driving duties and ready to work, which means increased productivity for the employer. Happy employees make long-term productive employees, thus high retention rates. Co-workers in the Vanpool family create a working bond with their fellow employees, increasing a positive work environment while decreasing their outside negative environment footprint. They save time, they save money and on their commute coming to and from work. So Bobby, next. So how does Vanpooling work? With your assistance, we match anywhere from 4 to 15 employees who live in the same area and have similar work schedules. They choose the meeting locations, the route that they want to use, and the meeting time. They meet, they leave their personal vehicles at that specific location and take vehicle provided by us, Enterprise, to work and reverse that commute on the way home. Insurance, maintenance, and 24-hour roadside service is included in the monthly cost, and there's no long-term commitment for them. Thanks, Bobby. So how we keep employees safe utilizing a controlled commute option. Obviously, during the pandemic, this has become very critical. When we first had this Commute with Enterprise jumped into action, we immediately reached out to our essential employers to develop a plan to keep Vanpoolers safe during their commute. The essential employees expressed needs for PPE, masks, and sanitation products. Enterprise put together our Complete Clean Pledge program, which basically provides gloves, masks, and the disinfectant pod that they can actually utilize that we give them on every delivery. We also implemented protocols for larger vehicles if necessary for people to actually feel safe within the vehicle, and that's actually something we still do. So being able to control your commute has helped keep Vanpool as one of the safest forms of commuting through the pandemic. Commute groups set their own rules, sharing responsibilities like driving and vehicle care. Bobby, next. So how do we create a customized turnkey program for your location? I walk you through the development of your customized Vanpool program. You decide whether you want to pay for the Vanpool program yourself for your employees as a benefit, you want to partially pay for the Vanpool program as a benefit, or if you just want to provide it as a benefit and your employees pay in full and they just share the cost amongst the people in the vehicle. That's completely one of the steps that we actually use when we design your program. We just start with we start with determining the type of program and employees that you want to target, and we develop what they call a mapping program. Once we do that mapping program, we basically determine where your employees are coming from, and we can actually start the process of pretty much marketing to those particular people and explaining what the program is, because a lot of people don't have any clue what the Vanpool program is and what it consists of and how it will help them. After the mapping, the plan is rolled out to employees and various marketing methods available to your company. I began commute connection meetings for the groups living in the same mapping area with similar shifts and assist them in forming their Vanpools. Vanpools are formed, and we can actually do what they call data analytics on impact of the program, which can be provided to you quarterly as an employer, so you can see how your program is doing at your location.
Thank you, Jade. Great. So to wrap up our presentation, we just want to talk about the value of a commuter Vanpool program, how it affects our targeting markets of essential workers, social justice, and the manufacturing industry. Just showing you a real life scenario of how a Vanpool program can truly affect your employees. So I took an average number of 1,000 employees. Out of those 1,000 employees, industry average says about 20% of your workforce travels 15 miles or more to work each day. Out of that 20%, ideally 10% are the perfect Vanpool candidate, meaning they have no constraints on their commute, whether it's childcare drop-off or any type of thing that would prevent them from being able to share a ride with other workers. The average Vanpool has about 7 participants on it. So out of 100 employees, that'd put us at 15 Vanpools. With 15 Vanpools, your company would save 85 parking spots, 85 parking spots per day. That 85 parking spots is huge when you think about how expensive real estate's becoming and how parking constraints just keep getting tighter and tighter. From a commuter mile reduced perspective, 15 Vanpools and 100 participants would reduce commuter miles about 1.9 million miles per annually. To put that in perspective, it's 239,000 miles to travel to the moon. So over that year, you could travel to the moon and back 4 times. From a CO2 reduction perspective, earlier in the presentation, we talked about how a single occupancy vehicle commuting annually produced about 4.6 metric tons of CO2, which was equivalent to 6 acres of U.S. forestry. By offering a Vanpool program and having 100 participants enrolled in it with 15 Vanpools, that CO2 reduction is going to be just over 1.5 million pounds of CO2, which would be equivalent to 927 acres of U.S. forestry. A pretty big impact. From an employee standpoint, with retention and recruiting being such a hot topic in the Central Valley, the annual savings that 100 participants would see on a Vanpool is $972,000 in employee savings. The average Vanpooler tends to save between $6,000 to $9,000 a month, depending on how far their commute is. So some pretty big impactful numbers by offering a simple program. So speaking of our essential employees, essential workers, two highlights from the Commute with Enterprise world is first is our largest customer, the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs. Throughout the pandemic, our nurses and doctors and hospital staff really had to put in the extra effort, working super long hours and just having grueling day-to-day operations. Throughout the pandemic, Enterprise was able to continue to service our essential workers at the hospital and be able to arrive to work refreshed and ready to go. And at the end of the night, they were able maybe to take a nap and just get home to their family and be refreshed in a better state of mind. In Sherman, Texas, we partner with Denton County Transportation Authority and serve hundreds of production workers that commute more than an hour from Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas to a Tyson meat processing plant. Many of these passengers were refugees from religious persecution of the Maynard religion. Again, we continue throughout the pandemic to service these essential workers and continue to be able to put meat on our shelves. From a social justice perspective, we have a case study in Florida right now with 32 rural counties that were targeted, whether they made up low income, high unemployment, low wages, high public assistance, high poverty, and a lack of stable employment opportunity. Today in those markets, we service 30 plus Vanpools that take the people from those lower income counties to the high paying coastal counties in Florida. The reason I use this case study is because it's very similar makeup to the San Joaquin Valley with the different counties in the lower income states. The average commute for these counties is 50 to 70 miles one way, which is drastic when you think about how much it's helping their community out by being able to bring in the higher paying jobs. Another thing that's exciting that is on the radar for Commute with Enterprise is our Ag Van program that will hopefully be launching in the near future. Being in the central part of California, this is a huge topic as we have so many agricultural workers. The pilot will begin in Florida, targeting the migrant and seasonal workers, and then hopefully to spread throughout the rest of the country. Wrapping it up, talking about the manufacturing as our essential employees conversation continues. Locally, Tracy Defense Distribution Depot, so we have more than 80 Vanpools that serve 450 workers commuting in a radius 75 miles in diameter. It's mind-blowing to think that 15% of the civilian workforce at this critical military site are getting to work every day safely through our Vanpool program. And we couldn't talk about California without talking about the great partner of Tesla that we have. In the Reno market, we have locations in Reno, Lathrop area, as well as the Bay Area and in the western part of the state. And with the program in Reno, we have 125 Vanpool programs, 125 Vanpools that are commuting to the Tesla Gigafactory in Sparks, Nevada, partnered with the Reno Transportation Commission of Washoe County. We're able to reduce the cost per trip down to $2 per trip compared to a commuter bus that averages about $10 per trip. We're fortunate enough to have Melvin Justice from Tesla on the webinar with us to speak a little bit about the Tesla program and the impact that vanpooling has had on Tesla.
Gotcha. Thanks, Bobby, and appreciate all the speakers, Stephanie, Jay, and everybody on the webinar joining us today. A lot of great information from Enterprise and a lot of the great initiatives that Enterprise has put forth in collaboration with employers like ourselves have helped Tesla specifically expand the program from executive buy-in during a very tough time of the pandemic of how to navigate and continue to have Vanpools dial in as folks are trying to understand how to stay healthy and maintain costs in their homes. We looked at that and looked at that $2 a trip pricing and said, why not? How can we make that happen for our people? And we were able to do so and continue to push out product at Tesla in order to make sure the services that we provide as a finished goods manufacturing business across the world, our goal was to enroll in Vanpool. Not only did it provide a very low cost, but it provides a very big sense of solidarity and community amongst our internal employees. So with those two items being of high value for Tesla, and sustainability, obviously with CO2 reductions being a paramount factor, it was only it was a pretty much an easy decision to continue, and not only continue but also triple down with Vanpool. So in our Reno region with 125 vans, we're continually expanding. We're obviously still hiring, and we're still pushing people to more Vanpools than anything else. In a lot of our other regions as well, we're seeing that this particular ratio of Vanpools and Vanpoolers are not only extending from webinars like this where people are learning about it, but it's actually become more of a buzz where people are like, if you're not in a Vanpool, why are you here, right? And so people are actually pushing Vanpool. Our employees are pushing it now, whereas they're not learning and saying, what's a Vanpool? They're saying, why aren't you in one? So that narrative, because of the enterprise pushing and helping understand what it means and the galvanization of these individuals getting into Vanpools it's very important. And so we're very happy to have had the benefit of not only partnering with Vanpool throughout, but going through these rough times of the pandemic and now coming out and saying, hey guys, we're getting back to work. And now we're seeing our people, just like the rest of our folks in San Joaquin County, take on this great benefit.
Great, thank you, Melvin. Yeah, we couldn't have the success we have without the support and champions like Melvin. He is a huge component of Vanpooling, and he actually rides on one himself, so he lives and breathes it every day. So wrapping up, thank you again to Stephanie and San Joaquin Council of Government, DIBS, for putting this presentation together. It's very refreshing to be able to talk about the impacts that Vanpooling has had, to help throughout a time that we never thought we would ever see in our lives, to be able to continue to get our essential employees to work and just continue to build on this great relationship that we have. I will turn it back over to you, Stephanie.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bobby. I love what you said, Melvin, about with your employees. The question isn't what is a Vanpool, it's why are you not in one? That is definitely and a perspective we like to really bring to the table at DIBS. Our main goal is to get folks to consider other means of transportation other than driving alone as first. That means carpooling, that means vanpooling, that means biking, that means public transit. Any and all of those is what we are looking to really share here. So again, what we do with DIBS is provide means of doing that with a variety of tools and programs. In terms of the specifics of employer outreach and Vanpools, we can help work one-on-one with employers as far as working on a custom smart travel program, something that's going to fit your unique workplace the best. And we can connect you with folks like our friends at Commute with Enterprise and CalVans to really make something happen. We also help with the Rule 9410 for air quality reduction and on-site events. And then Vanpool specifically, we also like to add kind of to the pot a little bit. We do have a Vanpool subsidy program that we oversee. This program is funded by the 3 counties. Depending on the county that the Vanpool originates in, there is a different subsidy available. It is up to $600 per month, depending on. We also understand that sometimes vanpooling or ride sharing or whatever, life is going to happen. life is always going to happen. There will always be an emergency that will come up at least once in your life. So we do offer an emergency ride home service. This is a completely free service to anybody who works or lives in this county that is registered in our program. And so what it is up to 4 times a year, we will cover the cost to get you home from work because you had to leave early, your driver had to leave early, you had to stay late, something happened. We want to make sure that vanpooling and other ways of traveling are practical for you. And so that really helps us feed into that mindset that Melvin brought is a vanpool. It's why aren't you in? So again, my name is Stephanie Maynard, and I work with the DIBs program as well as San Joaquin Council of Arts. You can contact me here at maynard@sjcog.org. I am happy to talk at any length about the DIBs program, different options, and what we can do for you to help make vanpooling a reality for your work site. So with, I'm going to now turn it over to some Q&As. So please feel free to type your questions in the chat for any of our presenters. And then afterwards, we'll take a couple minutes for this. And then afterwards, I will raffle off our lovely gift cards. So currently, we don't have any questions in the chat, but go ahead and type them in. And also thank you again to Jade, Bobby, and Melvin. All right, well, apparently, y'all, we did our job really well because we don't have any questions. So wonderful, wonderful. Okay, but if you do have questions, you can get a hold of any of us to talk a little bit more about the Vanpool program. We're happy to do so. So with that, so I have my lovely 2 gift cards. For those who are in attendance right now, if you could, in the Q&A box, go ahead and ask a question. Let's see, tell me what was the maximum subsidy that you could receive through the DIBs Vanpool program? And just type that in the chat box, and the first 2 will get a gift card.
Hey, Stephanie, did look like a question popped up about COVID protocols.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Can you talk more about your COVID protocols? Yes. Bobby and Melvin, why don't you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I want to kick it off. So, you know, with the vanpooling being such a flexible option, we really work to put give the best protocols as kind of guidance. You know, we rely heavily on the CDC on what their recommendations are as far as social distancing and wearing a mask in your vehicle, the cleaning, the extra level of cleaning. You know, we made some partnerships from local levels to be able to offer another solution from like on-site mobile detailing that can disinfect the vehicles. So CDC guidelines are kind of where we rely on, but again, kind of like Jade spoke to earlier, the great thing about vanpooling is it's your van family and your commute. So you kind of the groups are able to set their own rules and know exactly who's riding together with it. Tesla was super proactive when COVID first hit, and I think that is a big reason why we had the success is because Melvin and Tesla jumped right on it and got some great protocols set up that were able to have us keep their Vanpool program super successful.
Yeah, thanks, Bobby. And I think just to piggyback or to segue from that, I think what we did, I want to say, guys, like April, May, we partnered with Enterprise and said, hey, listen, we don't want our Vanpools dropping, right? And we have people still running the gun in here. How do we maintain our vans without, we actually saw a ridiculous adoption, to be honest with you. Our adoptions it skyrocketed because of this, I want to say, combined collaborative COVID compliant effort that we put together here working with Enterprise. And part of that was a couple things. Number one, how do we social distance a van, right? How do we maintain social distancing in a vehicle in order to support the safety and well-being of others in the van? That's the first thing we looked at, right? So we had that as a protocol, number one. Number two, we looked at having masks being required in the vehicles, windows down if you can be, and having HEPA filters in the vehicle to get a lot of the particulate out if you did need to run that heater or that air conditioner, depending on how warm or cold the van was. And then the other thing was, hey, Enterprise had a great rebound plan as far as COVID compliant PPE kits, right? So it would include disinfectant pods, right? You're talking about sprays, wipes, masks, gloves, all that stuff, right? Paper towels. I mean, and this was at a time when that stuff, you couldn't even get toilet paper. So for them to come out, spend the money, and really stick their neck out at a real critical point to really push forward on that was huge. And then I think with the counties, so San Joaquin County, right, with dibs and RCC and all these great outfits like dibs stepping up and saying, hey, listen, we understand that 50% may be a little tough right now to get to, right? We just want, if you can maintain, X amount of people in the van and keep it rolling, please do so, right? We'll give you a little lax and we'll work with you as the employer to continue the van. So part of that help with folks like out of San Joaquin County, the dibs program, then going back to Enterprise saying, hey, we're not being constrained too hot or too much with our employees. And at the same time, being able to have those protocols in place, having our EH&S team double down, right? And our executive stakeholders working with them and saying, hey, what is part of the CDC guidelines, state, local regulations, and does this fit the parameters? It did. And then last but not least, Tesla said, hey, you know what? You're working all these hours, right? We know that it's going to be a little difficult and it may be a little tedious to have to clean your own van, right? And so what we did was we provided $100 a month reimbursement. So if you had to have Jack's detail shop come by your house, mobile detailer come by, fine. If you need to go to the car wash or whatever, we'll go ahead and take care of that. So those are some of the things that we did as Tesla in collaboration with Enterprise to provide, really proof of concept that ended up being a fantastic program that's worked ever since. So that's a couple of things that we did.
Fantastic. We're getting a few more questions coming in. Also, apologies. There seemed to be a little bit of a delay and tech error on getting the Q&A. I'm not quite sure what's happening there. You can message the phone number that's up for a Q&A. If you have a question and the Q&A box is not working. But we also had, as far as in addition to the COVID protocols, how much does it cost to operate a van and how much do riders pay for the service?
Yeah, so price is determined off of really a couple of different factors. One, of how far folks are commuting from, two, how many people are in the Vanpool, and three, the type of vehicle they would select. One of the really great things with vanpooling is that it is very flexible. So, if during, like Melvin said, when the pandemic first hit, we were able to expand our vans and, take a 7-passenger van and swap it out for a 15-passenger van just to be able to social distance in it. As we move into a normal life post-COVID, it's really driven off of the biggest factor is just the length of the distance of the commute as well as the participants in it. A general stat to throw out is vanpooling costs about as much as a cup of Starbucks every day. So if you cut Starbucks out of your daily life, then it's about the cost of what vanpooling equates to. But I would be more than happy if just to connect with whoever submitted that question and dig into it a little bit further with you.
Thank you, Bobby. Melvin, on your end, do you have any more information on operating cost to operate and how much riders pay?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple things, right? As an employer, I'm going to look at a couple things. First of all, you're going to want to look at the Vanpool lease, right? How much does this vehicle actually cost, right? And that's based on mileage, right? It's going to be based on how far your people are coming from, how many people are in the vehicle. Those are the two main factors, right? And Bobby, this is straight from Enterprise, right? But this is something that as an employer I looked at, and this is how that number's determined, right? How many miles are you going? Meaning how many work days? And me go 20 days, 15 days, whatever that is, versus the amount of one-way mileage or round trip mileage. Let's say you're going 100 miles a day. Well, if you go 20 days, 100 miles, it's gonna be 2,000 miles a month, right? So you're doing the numbers there. Well, that's gonna be 2,000 miles. How much is that gonna cost, right? For the wear and tear of the vehicle, lease and all that. Then you gotta look at gas. So all that's included. But the beautiful thing is when you have an outfit like this, when you get $400, which is technically about 33% off the van, that's a little difficult to beat when you're looking at anything, below and above that. If you're trying to do a shuttle, you're on a private shuttle, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. You can't even guarantee it's a 1-for-1, right? So, and then you look at carpooling, it's a little tough in the pandemic, and at the same time, it's unreliable because you don't know if you really can get a match. Whereas Vanpool is almost like season tickets. So when you look at the plus minus of the price of it, even as a contractor, in Tesla, we're saying, hey, we actually will pay for, subsidize those or full time. But even as contractors, we have a lot of people, contractors that are interested because they're saying, hey, you know what, how much does it cost me to go, let's say, 40, 50, 60 miles, right? I'm coming from, I'm heading from Hanford even, I'm heading from Riverbank, I'm heading from Los Banos, shooting up to Modesto. How much is that going to cost me? And they're saying, well, that's going to cost me maybe $400, $500, $600 a month. I can pay $50 a month and hop in a Vanpool and call it a day because that subsidy kicks in. So when people look and get that plus minus, and when you say you can save X amount out of pocket that can go towards your groceries or cell phone bill instead of going towards your car insurance and all that stuff and money that would be lost, they get it. I mean, they say, geez, I don't want to pay for all that and chip my car. I can, pay my car insurance straight up, but the money I save and feel happy. So the costs are amazing when you actually give it to it from a very layman's terms level. But from executive stakeholder standpoint, the employee satisfaction, I think the slide that Bobby had, as far as the commuting being the second most, I would say, important factor when it comes to job satisfaction, that is huge, considering people, in the Bay Area have to travel. So that cost is a big one. And in the Central Valley, there's not a lot of places to travel. There's not much option. So this is probably the number one option. If you're not on Amtrak, where else are you going to be on? And this is the best one. So cost-wise, it makes the most sense.
Awesome. A couple more questions for the group. What are key messages that work best to get employees interested in joining a Vanpool?
Yeah, I mean, really, it all depends on the employee we're speaking to. The biggest, I would say, is really that cost savings. A lot of our approach is, what would you do with that extra money that you're not spending on gas each month or spending to replace an old vehicle? So you have the cost factor. As traffic continues to build back post-pandemic, I live in the Bay Area, so I know all about the traffic and see the highways increasing and increasing more and more each day. So, we make a big push to really talk to employees about the time value they get back. So rather than sitting behind the steering wheel, they're able to take that 45 to an hour and a half commute home to wrap up emails, just get refreshed, take a nap, catch up on social media, so they can get home and spend the time with their family. And the other big one that we really push out is the sustainability piece. It's wonderful to see especially living in California, how many people are so concerned with the climate and what they can do to help the climate. So really talking about the green initiative and what you're going to give back to the environment by reducing your CO2 by not driving in a single occupancy vehicle every day.
Awesome. We have more people who don't have cars, meaning they're not able to drive up to a meetup location.
Yeah, again, I mean, just going back to the great thing with the flexibility with Vanpools is, when Jade gets a group together at XYZ employer and she's meeting with the 7 people that want to participating in a Vanpool, she'll work with the groups to design the best route for them. So, if it's a perfect world and everybody can meet at the local grocery store parking lot and ride to work together, meet there and drive right directly into their employer from there, that'll work great. But we also can do the alternative where maybe it's stopping at point A and then stopping at point B at someone's house to pick them up. So again, it's nice because it gives that flexibility piece, and our sales team in the field will really help to consult the groups to what makes the most sense for their commutes. But we want to make it as easy as possible for everybody, because we're truly changing their mindset of driving alone compared to sharing a ride with other people.
Fantastic. Let's see. I have, I think this is might be a tongue-in-cheek question. There's a smiley face emoticon with it, but this is for Melvin. How much would it cost to use a Tesla vehicle at a Vanpool? And then
well. I mean, I figured the elephant was going to come out the room at some point. I mean, the most sustainable would be electric, right? So, you know, I would say that's something that we're taking a look at. I know Bobby, you know, Enterprise, we're taking a look, right? We're seeing what the possibility is there. So that's something that may be on the horizon sooner than later. So I think you'll maybe hear more about that from Enterprise and Tesla, you know, sooner than later. But at this point, we are definitely taking a look as we look in this sustainable electric world, as that's the highest of the high. That's the cream of the crop, an electric vehicle that can carry, you know, high capacity of people. So that cost, I would say, is significantly cheaper, I would say, than people would think. But that's something that's in the work this time.
thank you, Melvin. Couple more questions coming in. How do you incentivize drivers? Do commuters rotate driving responsibility?
Yeah, I mean, with vanpooling, it is a voluntary program. So, you know, we kind of throw it into the Vanpool's hands of how they want to, if they want to incentivize a driver. Typically, and what will happen is, you know, if you have 5 people in a Vanpool, everybody signs up to be a driver. It's not required. It's optional to sign up as a driver. We encourage it, so this way you can rotate your driving responsibilities. So I'll drive every Monday of the week, Melvin will drive every Tuesday of the week, Stephanie will drive every Wednesday of the week, and just have that rotation, so that way you're not getting burnt out by driving by yourself not having to drive every day. But then again, we have groups where there's one person and he loves to drive and he's a control freak, and you know, the Vanpool group may pay for his costs for Vanpooling because they don't have to worry about driving, and they can sit back and relax every day knowing that somebody in the Vanpool is going to be the driver every day.
All right. And how have you been dealing with employers that get stuck in the risk phase of implementation of the Vanpool?
Yeah, it's all about creating the awareness of it. You know, we do Enterprise prides itself on really being there to support employers as much as possible. So, you know, from the time that we get commitment from employer till we get that first vehicle out, that first group formed and on the road, we're doing continuous outreach, working with the employer, whether it's through an email blast campaign or, you know, on-site marketing once we're out of the pandemic. Tesla's a great example of this. I mean, it took us some time to get that first van on the road, but as soon as that first van's on the road burning gas, it's just, the program just snowballs, and it's all about the word of mouth.
Awesome, thank you. We're going to give a few more minutes to let any more Q&As trickle in. There are a few people who are having difficulties with the Q&A appearing or going through. So for those people, again, that phone number right there, you can actually text, and I will receive it, and I will be able to bring it to the group if that is occurring for you. We do have our winners for the gift cards. We have Bruce Forbes and Kristen Ryan. Apologies. Watch your email. I will be sending it over so I can get your addresses and mail out your gift cards. So thank you everyone so much for being a part of this webinar. We really appreciate it. We know that there is a lot of Zoom fatigue and webinar fatigue out there, so that you chose to spend an hour of your day with us for this talk. We're very grateful. Oh, we do have another question. Vanpool subsidy. Yep, that was answering the question. And how is Tesla able to have a subsidy lower than public transit?
Can you elaborate on that question? I would assume you're talking about the per cost, the daily per cost.
I think so, that they're talking about the daily per cost.
Yep. So if that's what you're referring to, then really it's the adoption of the program. You know, when you look at the subsidy that's being provided, whether it's through the Reno Transportation Committee, through dibs, or through MTC in the Bay Area, these public entities that are providing the subsidies really drive that cost down, and then you split that cost amongst 5 to 15 people. It just drives the cost per trip down. You know, it varies anywhere between $2 to $10 per trip, depending on how far and how many people are in the vehicles. But really, it's the partnerships with with organizations like dibs and MTC and RTC that really help drive that cost down and really put the return on investment on vanpooling.
All right, perfect. And let's see, great information. Thank you very much. This is from Bruce. We're here in South Carolina. Great information. We're working with Enterprise in our area, upstate South Carolina, to create a vanpool service. Thank you for this presentation. Thank you for coming out, Bruce. We really appreciate it. All right. Well, that looks like that is going to be the end. Again, thank you everyone so much for coming out and attending. Please feel free to keep in touch with us. Bobby, if you want to put up your get in touch screen again, just for people who want to take that down, since mine's been up for a hot minute here.
Yes, just give me 2 seconds.
Cool. Again, thank you everybody for coming out, having another meeting. I know that your days are probably filled with a lot, but we do appreciate you taking the time to spend an hour with us. Again, I am Stephanie Maynard with the dibs program, and we partner with San Joaquin Council of Governments, as well as Stanislaus Council of Government, and the Merced Area Association of Governments. So we are happy to work with you, as well as our friends at Enterprise, on vanpooling, ride sharing, any sort of program that can help alleviate if you have parking issues, or people getting to work, and your overall quality of life for your employees. So thank you all so much. This is going to be recorded, so watch your emails for a copy of the presentation that will be sent to it. And if there is anyone else that you would like to make sure that they get a recording, you can always contact myself for the link. So thank you all so much. We're going to go ahead and end for today.